you for coming on a little ride with me. Just sharing some thoughts just in case any of them resonate, and maybe it's something that your soul could benefit from hearing. I always feel that there's something beautiful about someone having the courage to put to words what might very well be a collective experience or a shared experience. I think that in my own healing journey, one of the most beneficial things that has helped me get through and process my own emotions, my own feelings, and just work through that energy has been actually hearing other people go through their own experience. And even if the details are not exact, and even if the details vary or differ, sometimes there is an undertone, an underlying message that resonates, no matter what the situation is specifically. You know, eclipse season, and make no mistake, we just had, you know, the lunar eclipse, the full moon, the closing of a door. But make no mistake, this is very much a portal. It's a eclipse season for a reason. It's not a one-off shoot. So if you're like, well, I thought that the full moon came and went, why am I still here? It's because the closing of a door often initiates the opening of a new one. Many times, in order for us to walk into another room, we got to close the door behind us. We've got to exit one room in order to walk into another, and that is very much what's happening. In order for this new energy to make its way, we are very actively closing out chapters and cycles in our lives, karmic lessons, if you will. And where you are and where you stand in relation to your own lessons, that very much differs from case to case, from lesson to lesson, from soul to soul. Some of you might actually be nearing the end and are ready to fully close the door. Some of you are just waking up to the realization. Coffee break. Sorry, some of you are just, waking up to the realization of something that needs to break off. Something that you've been carrying and entertaining that is no longer resonating with you. And that in and of itself is a process. Awakening. That's why I laughed with the coffee break. It's just kind of like this energy of sometimes it's a slow build that starts getting you awakened to the reality that you are currently in. Sometimes it's a rude awakening that's fast like lightning. You're not here to judge your awakening and or the stage that you find yourself in. So what are some of these cycles that could be closing out for you? Again, varies person to person. It might be just the one. It might be a series of them. For some, and I'll just go through some of them because, based on my clients, based on my own experience, is what I'm going to share with you. Maybe some of these resonate, maybe they don't at all. But the moral of the story is really you're being encouraged to pay attention and to just see with open eyes, with an awakened mind, with clear vision, the themes that are rising up in your own life for you to examine, reconsider, reevaluate, and in some cases move with. Because this isn't about reckless, rash, impulsive movement. This is intentional, aligned moves that lead to a happier, healthier, more aligned way of life. And so what are some of these themes? Karmic relationships, friendships, partnerships, business collaborations, or in matters of the heart. relationships that have existed well past their expiration date. For some of you, it might be a long time coming. You've held on to a relationship that for what feels like months or years or even longer, you've held on to out of guilt, out of shame, out of moral responsibility, out of fear of being judged. And a lot of these relationships are being shaken up because you're not meant to be. This is not what life is about. It's not about you placating and staying stuck in dynamics that drain your soul. And make no mistake, a relationship that exists out of convenience might be offering you a convenience in one aspect, but it's draining you in other capacities, whether it's financial, spiritual, energetic, psychological, mental. And that's where you'll often find fatigue and exhaustion, overwhelm, restlessness, heaviness, physical, mental, or otherwise. And I get it. Through our own upbringing, through cycles and learned behavior, we've been taught that relationships require work. And that much is true. They require effort. They require work. But it shouldn't be draining you to the point of your soul is nudging you and telling you that this relationship is off, and yet you're still clinging on to it. This is really a very important recalibration point. Why are you in the relationships that you're in? What keeps you there? And if it's not authenticity and it's not true, if it's not aligned with your realness, your truth, it's going to be shaken and stirred to move you out of it, to get you to see that guilt and shame and manipulation, coercion are not reasons to stay and entertain. I read something the other day that said something along the lines of relationships as temples that you are not meant to stay in praying forever. I gotta find the quote because I'm butchering it up as we speak. A habit that I have of doing with quotes and sayings. But some relationships, it's to say that some relationships enter our lives for a brief chapter, some for a short season, some for many seasons. But deep down, if and when you are in moments of peace and quiet, you know which relationships are still very much alive and well in your life, and which ones you are just hanging on for dear life, and not out of true desire, but just for every other reason that your mind has concocted other than true, genuine love and authenticity. And so for many of you, your relationships and the issues within them are rising to the surface. People pleasing is another big chapter that is weaving its beautiful little powerful storyline into our lives. And it's tied into our relationships because quite often, if you have people pleasing ways, you'll find that narrative often plays out, of course, in our relationships. Are we being true to ourselves, or are we exhibiting these character traits that were hardwired into us, drilled into us, about being the good girl, about being the good boy who does the right thing on paper, but is self-sacrificing their own happiness to appease others, to accommodate other people's needs. And this isn't about being selfish in your desires. It's about recognizing what's in alignment with them. And when you are self-betraying in the name of keeping the peace, silencing your words, people-pleasing can show up in so many different ways in our lives. And it can show up in the way in which we bite our tongues just so that we can avoid having to fight, bypassing our needs and our desires to put somebody else's before 24 hours, which has always been, socially speaking, deemed a very noble thing. But when you are in a repeated habit of that, it's no longer noble. It becomes sacrificial. And so much of this karmically is saying you're done being the sacrificial lamb in the story of your life. Where else and how else can people pleasing show up for us? In work, in matters of just obedience to authority, lowering your head, dimming yourself down in order to accommodate their ego, their needs, their space. I think I said that, but that's a big chapter that's rising up to the surface in order to be cleared out and closed out. The narcissist empath storyline, where we end up taking on other people's debris and chaotic noise as a badge of honor because we are humble and kind and we see the good in people and we want to help them and see them thrive, but at such a cost, at such an expense, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. You're not here to be a punching bag to others. You're not here to be battered and bruised physically, in any sense of that word. You can be a good person with a good heart who wants to help without you taking the beating and without you putting yourself in these dynamics where you end up being the one who carries all the weight or ends up being the scapegoat. So definitely pay attention to what's rising up to the surface at this time. In your relationships, they're often the most powerful mirrors to our souls, to our storylines, to the work that we have achieved, but also in what's left to be done. And I hope that you don't judge yourself too harshly for it, but rather lean into the lessons as a form of breaking free and breaking through the lessons so that you're no longer repeating them. Codependency just came to mind. That's another powerful one. Where have you also outsourced your worth to productivity, to others' opinions? Because we're calling back our power to ourselves. And again, this isn't about ego. This is about recognizing I should have never outsourced it in the first place. My worth is inherent. There's a lot of power when you recognize that sometimes through no fault of your own, really and truly, people are going to judge you, witness you, and experience you. Aside from your behavior, they're filtering all of that through their lens, through their perception, through their life experience. And again, even if you did nothing, quote unquote, wrong on paper, you might very well be villainized by someone else at this time through no fault of your own, or perhaps through a misunderstanding of their needs versus yours. A reminder that we can't control the narrative of how people perceive us and interpret us and experience. If you are moving with love and kindness in your heart, with goodness in your soul, and people are still villainizing you and still experiencing a different aspect of you, even if it's far from the one that you wish that they had received, this isn't a permission slip to be a douchebag. And it's not a green light to say, well, I get to behave however the hell I want, reckless, abandon, I can be a jerk if I want. This isn't about that, but it's about really recognizing that you can't control the narrative of how people experience you and witness you. And there's power to be had in that dynamic, because once you relinquish push, the need to control your narrative. And that ties back into people pleasing. You're no longer over explaining yourself. You don't have to. The right people, when you turn on your beacon of light, when you have the courage to remove the masks, to stop showing up how people expect you to show up, but just truly authentically you, in your light, in your power, in your beauty, that turns on a beacon. That turns on a very powerful signal that reaches so powerfully to the right souls who are meant to align with you. I very much believe in love languages and really the power in learning how to speak one another's language. But make no mistake, this isn't about you abandoning your language in order to meet theirs. It's recognizing that the right people, you'll learn how to communicate effectively with one another. And yeah, that is very much, that is what compromise looks like. Compromise has never been about abandoning yourself to appease others. It's about finding that middle ground that honors your authenticity and honors your truth, while also respecting theirs. And in the right relationships and in the right people, you'll find that comes effortlessly, and that comes, I'm not going to say effortlessly, organically, because there is truth again to what I said about relationships requiring work and relationships requiring a level of commitment and playing your part and playing your role. But it shouldn't feel forced, restrained. You should never feel like you're walking on eggshells. The right people won't feel that way. And if you need help really just embracing that in, I want you to think about your best friend. This is a relationship that feels and flows naturally and organically. It's not forced. It's not manipulated. It's, it's nirvana. Come as you are. Come as you are, and the right people will meet you where you're at. The masks are coming off in every shape, way, or form. So if you have deceived yourself into your relationships, into the life that you're living, that mask is coming off. And if other people have deceived you into staying, conned you, manipulated you into staying, that shit is coming off as well. Masks off, baby. Because the next chapter of the story, it requires authenticity. It requires truth. It requires transparency. And the right people, they'll meet you there. So green means go, baby. So I love you to pieces. I hope that this resonated. I hope it reached a part of you that maybe needed to hear some aspect of this message. And please forgive the camera angle or whatnot. This is something very powerful that I just wanted to share with you guys today. So I love you to pieces, and I hope that this finds you well. Hang in there. Breathe through this time. Find grace, humility, compassion in yourself. As always, a lot of what our souls truly seek and what we think that we need on the external is just really begging to be seen, felt, experienced, and offered up firsthand. So there's that, boo. All right, gonna go now. Love you to pieces. Bye.